Welcome to episode 467 of Salcedo Paranormal, and tonight I'm talking more about mythology and the paranormal. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here on the live stream on Discord, or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. As always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, as well as Liam Martin for producing the shows, Liam Martin of the Exile Minds podcast, for producing the shows and putting them up on the station. I cannot talk tonight. That's not good. And if you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others, and or rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice. Also, if you'd like to hear extra material, extra true paranormal stories from the web episodes, at least one a month, you can join the Patreon at any membership tier, and hear those over there on my Patreon page. If you would just like to make a one-time donation, you can do that through PayPal and Venmo, and all those links are always in the episode descriptions and on the podcast page, and of course in Discord. And help is never expected, but always appreciated, especially if you would like to see me get into more, basically better equipment and or more research materials available to me. Just any help is appreciated and does help out. So, also there are travel expenses. I will be going to the Mid-Michigan Paracon this year, and that's in the Soaring Eagle Casino in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, a casino and resort in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. That is November 4th and 5th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. And I also always include the link to that event on the episode description. So you can check that out. I'll be going there to make recordings of myself talking about the different paranormal topics that are discussed there, and also do recordings with anyone else who is interested while I'm there in talking about the paranormal in general and or their own experiences. And then I will bring those recordings back and share them on the show. So I think that covers everything. Again, this is my continuing series on mythological creatures, and so getting a good ways into that list that I've been using. They were having problems loading the second half or the next part of the list earlier today on their website, and I was trying to get beyond the first section there, and it wasn't loading. So I'm hoping that that was just a temporary thing. If that wasn't, then I will find some other sources and finish off this list as the series of episodes as best as I can, and we'll go from there. I'm not too worried, but you never know with websites. Things are always it's always possible for there to be mistakes and or changes that excuse me, that mess up websites as time goes on as well. So, but I think I should still have enough to get through today. And speaking of that, getting back to my main document here, and of course, this is all based on material that I then had summarized with the help of different AI tools, and that's what I'll be, the summaries are what I'll be reading today. So, getting back to the list here, the next one on this list is Goblin. And goblins are mischievous and vengeful creatures found in European folklore, often living in mountains, and mines. They have magical abilities and are known for stealing valuables from humans. There are 10 sub-races of goblins with different appearances and abilities, like kobolds, hobgoblins, and knockers. That's also, I think, part of where the phrase Tommy knockers, which is, of course, made famous, I think, in a way by Stephen King's novel by that name. Kobolds is one of those subtypes that has their own entry, so I'll be talking about them again at some point. Also, when I was looking at this, and I can't help but think about, I believe it's at least in Diablo 3. I don't know if it's in any of the other games in that series, but they have these treasure goblins that will appear at random that you can chase, and then if you catch it, you can it'll leave objects that you can use. So that's kind of funny. Now that I think about it. And then once in a while, once in a great while, they'll even leave like a little portal to a hidden level you can go through. So anyway, that's for anyone interested in video games. But sorry if for those of you that aren't. But anyway, goblins typically have unkempt hair and green skin, but can shapeshift or appear more human-like. They originated in 14th century France and became popular in medieval tales. Goblins appear in modern fiction like Harry Potter, running Gringotts Bank, apparently, as well as games, and that's where the Diablo 3 reference comes in, films, and books. Similar mythical creatures include gnomes, fairies, gremlins, ogres, and trolls. We did cover gnomes and fairies earlier, so all are mischievous tricksters. Says while not overtly evil, goblins are generally seen as malicious troublemakers who relish in causing problems for humankind. Their magical abilities make them dangerous. So, and of course, these are just summaries based on what I've found online, so I don't claim to know anything for sure. So, just keep that in mind. But it is interesting to look at all these summaries and things. So, yeah, that's the goblin. Like I said, I've encountered it mainly in I have heard of them in books and in fiction and things, but a lot of like I said, now there's that reference for me to video games now. Whenever I think of them, which is really funny because it's a high tech in a way thing that I'm thinking of that has something from centuries ago in it. So the next one is Golem, Golem. Golems are giant humanoid monsters made of clay, usually created to serve Jewish rabbis, apparently, or magicians. They are crudely shaped, often lacking facial features, but very large and strong. Golems are obedient, but can be unintelligent and clumsy. Some develop free will and go rogue. They have magical abilities from their creators, like invisibility or summoning spirits. Jewish texts describe how to create golems by inscribing a scroll or word of power. Removing the scroll or word can destroy them. And that's talking about in the actual form of the creature. Famous stories include the Golem of Chelm, the Golem of Prague, who went on rampages, and the Golem of Vilna. I'm not sure if I'm saying any of those names right. I apologize. Golems originated in Jewish folklore and the Talmud. I'm sorry if I'm saying that totally wrong. Now they appear in fantasy books, games, and movies. To Jewish people today, Golem is an insult. meaning someone unintelligent or clumsy. Overall, golems represent the potential dangers of creating powerful but unthinking servants who can turn against their masters. So that's that entry there. The next one here is Griffin. Griffins are mythical creatures with the head, wings, and front legs of an eagle and the body and back legs of a lion. They represent a combination of the king of the birds, eagle, and king of the beasts, lion. Griffins are known for being noble, protective, and fearsome, especially in guarding treasure and fighting evil. They have great physical strength as well as magical abilities like healing vision palms. Griffins originated in ancient Egypt and Iran art around 3000 BC before becoming popular in Greek and Roman culture. In medieval times, they were a Christian and Muslim symbol used in churches and poetry. The body parts were valued by alchemists. Their body parts, excuse me. Griffins remain common in modern fantasy books, games, and movies as powerful magical creatures and guardians. Overall, the griffin combines the majesty of a lion and flight of an eagle into a ferocious hybrid creature, unmatched in its loyalty and strength. So that's an interesting one. I've heard of the name before, and I'm sure I've seen different versions of it in fiction before as well, and read about it, but never really looked into it on its own. So the next one now, we did do a show on this topic before, so I'm interested what this has to say about it. And again, that was with the Arcane Observer, Jen, and who has a show also on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And but this is the Grim Reaper. Now, we talked all about it, so this is just going to be a brief description here, but it was a lot of fun to do that show, and definitely recommend going back to that one if you're interested. The Grim Reaper is a spectral personification of death in Western culture. He is depicted as a tall figure in a black cloak and hood, carrying a scythe to reap, in quotation marks, souls. Beneath the cloak, he is often shown as a skeleton or a void. He sometimes travels by a ghostly white horse. Let me see here. Though sinister looking, he is not evil, but simply does his job diligently in guiding souls to the afterlife. His abilities include separating souls from bodies and serving as a psychopomp to guide spirits to the next realm. The Grim Reaper emerged in 14th century Europe during the Black Death, representing the horror of death. Before this, death was depicted more positively. His iconic look was likely inspired by plague doctors' outfits. The name came later in the 19th century. Today, the Grim Reaper remains a prominent figure in horror, fantasy, and mythology as the most vivid personification of death. So that's interesting. That does seem to match some of what we talked about in that one show. So, but yeah, neat one there as far as the way. So I think this happens a lot more probably than we realize. These figures that may look like they're, and not all, but some of these figures that look like they are dangerous or negative, they may not be so bad after all in some cases. Sort of the whole point of the show in a way. So, but yeah, definitely recommend checking out that show. And I am pretty sure I have Grim Reaper in the title of it, so you can go and look back at that one, listen to that one for more on that topic. Let's see here. So, moving on to the next one here. Now, I had the next one here is the Hellhound. I had sort of mentioned this in relation to the black dog, but apparently this is more of a separate thing, I'm guessing, based on what the summary says, but maybe they're connected, I'm not sure. This, there do seem to be connections between multiple entries, multiple sections of this website that I am summarizing here, so it could be that they're connected. Hellhounds are monstrous dogs associated with death and the afterlife. They are larger than normal dogs and have black fur and glowing red or green eyes. Hellhounds are often portrayed as guardians protecting treasures or entryways to the underworld. They attack only if provoked. Hellhounds have supernatural abilities, like incredible speed and strength, shapeshifting, and mastery over fire. Their most feared power is sensing impending death. Hellhounds appear in many cultural myths, including Greek, Cerberus, Eastern Tiangu, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and Okuri Inu, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right either. English, the Bargist, I'm not sure about that one. Black Shuck, and another one I have no idea how to say that because it's all consonants. But anyway, Scandinavian, Odin's Wolves, Church Grims, and Native American, let me see, Cadeo, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not. Cadejo, I'm not sure if I'm saying that any of that right, so I apologize. But basically, the idea is that these are all sort of, this idea appears in all these different cultures around the world. Excuse me. So modern incarnations of hellhounds appear in popular books, video games, and movies. Writers draw from traditional legends to add their own twists, which definitely seems to fit. Just what I've heard over time about that. So, and I think that's going to happen over time. People will sort of find what works and what doesn't, and sort of when they're making books or stories or movies, they'll sort of take what works and add things as needed, and when it comes to fiction. So, definitely common. I've done that myself, sort of with the Grim Reaper thing as well. So, let me see here. And just since I mentioned it, I should say that if you're wondering about what book I'm talking about, that would be my novel From Unknown, and that can be found on Amazon. I didn't plan to plug that, but since it does sort of fit the topic there, the Grim Reaper discussion there. So, getting back to the list here. I'm not sure how you say this next one. It's spelled Ifrit. Ifrits are creatures from Arabic mythology, considered a type of jinn, spirit beings. Their name refers to their rebellious nature. According to legend, they were one of the first beings created by Allah, made of smokeless fire. So these are talking about, yeah. Odd thing about this list here, they don't have the D that I've usually seen in that spelling of jinn. So, but they're made of smokeless fire. They resented humans made of clay as Allah's favorite creatures. And this is all again according to mythology. So I don't claim to know anything here, and I apologize for the noise from Logan, the cat. The iconic Ifrit is Iblis, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, who disobeyed Allah by refusing to bow to Adam. Interesting. I think I've heard various versions of this. He was cast out of heaven but spared until Judgment Day. Iblis is sometimes equated with Satan. Okay, so that's why I thought I'd heard of that before. Ifrits have free will and can be good or evil, but most are portrayed as malicious, using tricks and magic to lead humans astray. Ifrits can shapeshift into animals, humans, or their true smoky form. Legend says they may appear as blackened humans. I wonder if they mean as in like burned? I wonder, magic and prayers are believed to give power over Ifrits. The myth of wishing lamps comes from stories of them found in objects. Bound to objects by magic. Sightings persisted in Egypt until the early 1900s. Some excavations of Egyptian tombs were said to be cursed by Ifrits. So they're also distinguished from other jinn like Merid. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. They are considered powerful and rebellious spirits that originated in ancient Middle Eastern folklore. So that's that link right there, or that section right there. It's amazing how so much of this stuff ties together from one location to another around the world. That's one of the most amazing things to me, is the way some things seem to be variations, or just even have different names and slightly different descriptions, but the events seem to be the same from one area to another, and that always amazes me. So, going on to the next entry here. Excuse me. And this is, I think I've heard of this before, but I don't know much about it. But Jackalope, Jackalope. The jackalope is a mythical cryptid described as a jackrabbit with antlers, like a deer. It was invented in the 1930s by taxidermist brothers Douglas and Ralph Herrick, who mounted a jackrabbit head on deer antlers as a prank. The first jackalope was sold to a hotel owner named Roy Ball, who helped spread tales of its existence and backstory. As demand grew, the legend expanded to include traits like being large, aggressive, able to mimic human speech, and fond of whiskey. That's quite the thing to add all that. Though fabricated, the jackalope became a prominent figure in American folklore and Western culture there. The town of Douglas, Wyoming, has embraced its legend as the jackalope's birthplace, selling souvenirs and fake hunting licenses. Possible inspirations include the Native American trickster god Bozo, not sure if I'm saying that right, and horned rabbits afflicted with the Shope papilloma virus. While known to be a hoax today, the jackalope endures as a symbol of American folklore and whimsical tall tales. So, but that's the end of that one. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.